For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Fundi Nzimande is in conversation with Polity about her book titled Leading Like a Woman. So, Fundi, is there a reason behind you writing this book? And tell us who should be reading this book.
Thank you very much for this interview. Yes, there's a very strong reason. In fact, there are reasons for why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because I realized that we've got a shortage of women in leadership. And this does not only apply to our environment in South Africa, but it also applies, globally. If you look at, for example, organizations in this country who have committed themselves to a 50-50 quota, you still find that women fall short. Then you look at other organizations who haven't even considered the question of representativity. You find that women are very they have a very low representation levels in those particular organizations. And I think that the weakest area where we find this shortage of women in leadership is in the business sector, the companies, in the economy generally. You find that there are fewer women playing a role. And for me, that was something that we need to address because we are missing out on the leadership approaches of women, which I have experienced and also which I have researched. Because I found that when I was young, I was informed that women leaders are very bad. And I must indicate that the people who were complaining about women leadership were men. And I found that my experience was different from what I had been told. So then I began to watch how women lead. And I began to, keep it at the back of my mind for my own reflection. The other thing, of course, is patriarchy itself. Patriarchy is very toxic and it's very detrimental to our institutions. The way that men lead does not take us forward. And that is why I have felt that we really do need a balance. I know that the majority of men are really patriarchal and misogynistic in how they lead, but we do have a very small minority of men who really see each person as a human, as a contributing human being that can be used in leadership, just the same as men. But we find that this is not common in our environment.
And you also believe that no women set out to be patriarchal, but you say there are factors colluded to make women patriarchal. Can you briefly mention one or two of those factors?
Well, really it is fear. To put it in a blanket approach, women become patriarchal because of the fear that comes from our experience of patriarchy. If you think that men and patriarchy are very strong, very powerful, they can influence your life negatively or positively, you will toe the line in some way. And some of that is being patriarchal so that you do not antagonize patriarchy. Some of the patriarchal things that women do is to identify strong, or should I say ethical, or should I say courageous women in the space and work to marginalize those particular women so that you will please patriarchy. Another way in which you become patriarchal, for example, as a mother-in-law, how you collude with patriarchy to keep your makoti or your son's bride in her place. All of these things are not done by women for women, but they are done by women to be gatekeepers, so to speak, of patriarchy, to maintain and extend patriarchy.
Can you also elaborate on how Ubuntu can be incorporated in the corporate world by a leading woman and how that can work in her favor?
Well, Sane, I have said that this book is not necessarily for women. Of course, perhaps the biggest beneficiaries would be women and others who are oppressed because of their non-binary gender. But I believe that even men can learn from this book. Even white men can learn from this book. But I want to say that Ubuntu, if you understand Ubuntu as being, I am human because you are human. I am something because you are something. Ubuntu is something that helps us to appreciate each other. It does not give us a chance to undermine each other. So I believe that any person who integrates Ubuntu into their leadership, what can I say, leadership arsenal, is somebody who will be open to appreciating and to finding the gems that are possessed by each person in their spaces. In business, for example, you should be able to look at introverted people, for example, and see what they carry with them. Because it doesn't mean that if someone is quiet, is not an extrovert, that person has no talent at all. And this is what is necessary. That is what helps people who integrate Ubuntu into their leadership to attain. You are able to get out whatever talents that people have with them.
You also talk of a transformational leader, and you say that if she does it very well, it even transforms to other people who are following her, especially her team, to see the vision behind that particular organization. Can you tell us what happens if a leader cannot execute this leadership skill well?
Well, it depends really, because the truth is, leadership for me is a very, very complex and very, very sensitive activity. Most people just assume that you've been given a promotion, for example, you can just lead, you know. The truth is, being a leader needs a person to be very, very reflective on what they are doing. They must be able to plan their leadership interventions. They must be able to look critically at their leadership interventions. When I say a transformative leader, I mean that when you come into a space, you must be able to study it so that you understand what are the issues in that particular space. What are the strengths? What has been done already? How do you help to highlight what has been done? How do you build on what has been done? The challenge that we have in our South African society, to be specific on this one, perhaps it could relate to other societies as well, is that when we change the guard as far as leadership is concerned, people want to start from scratch as if nothing has been done. And this tends to waste our resources. Of course, our time as well. So if you're a transformative leader, you seek to strengthen what has been done already. And you seek to deepen the positive aspects of what has been done already. You seek to go wider in the positive aspects of what has been done. For example, if you come into a space, most of the time there is policy governing how the space needs to be managed, needs to be protected and run. So when you come, you want to make sure that the policies that advance the agenda of the institution, the policies that advance the mandate of the institution are lifted up. I make an example in the book about strategic planning and how you will do strategic planning as a transformative leader, because you seek to deepen the impact of the institution. You also seek to deepen the positive experience of the people in the institution. When you are a transformative leader, people must feel engaged, involved, valued in what they're bringing in service to that particular institution. And that is what the transformative leader will do.
You also talk of a situational leadership style where a leader is expected to adapt to different situations. Why is it important for leaders to do that?
Well, that's very important for leaders to do that. I mean, like I said, for me, leadership is not just, a pedantic task. It's not just a pedestrian task. It's actually a very packed task on its own. So it does need someone who's going to be alert and aware and listening so that they can respond to whatever dynamics are happening in the space. So if you are a situational leader, it means that you are open to exploring different approaches to addressing the environment, addressing the challenges that come up in the environment. You cannot be married to one approach. And that is why I talk about a situational leader being adaptable in leadership. It helps you to be able to come up with alternative responses. You don't have to be tied down to a very narrow range of approaches to deal with the challenges that present themselves in that particular space.
And lastly, what else are you hoping the readers will take from your book?
Well, number one, I hope the readers will look at my experience and my research that I've put into this book and see the gems that I think are in it for people who are leaders, people who want to be leaders. I've also included in this book some advice about what do you watch out for as a new leader? And I think this is very critical. I've also included some advice or counsel about the things that a leader who leads like a woman must do. All of those things are things that you must do. And I think there's one specifically that I say, do not do this. So I want people to really feel, especially if you are a new leader, this book will empower you to play a role of leadership. And if you are an experienced leader, it will help you to expand your leadership repertoire. And this is the beauty that I think is in this book. Again, I believe that it will generate discussion in our spaces, because all of the things that I'm suggesting are things that we need to discuss in our leadership spaces and broaden our practice, broaden our theory in leadership.
That was Fundi Nzimande in conversation with Polity about her book titled Leading Like a Woman.